What's going on, kids? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Lair to provide you my latest reaction to the latest episode of The Gifted. We had The Gifted Season 2, Episode 11 air tonight. Fortunately, our wonderful president's spontaneous speech didn't get in the way of us actually being able to watch the next episode of this show, which I really liked a lot. I didn't like as much as I liked last week's, but I did like it quite a bit. There were some big things that happened at the very end, which I was very happy about. And beyond that, it was very much, again, about kind of taking us somewhere, right? Like, there are things that are going to happen, and this time I think the things that are going to happen are going to be enormous. There's talks of armies, and that means there's going to be a lot of mutants involved, and that is exciting to think about. Now, if the show's going to be able to pull it off the right way, that's a whole other issue, and that's something that we can, of course, leave up in the air. But all that aside, for now, let us talk about the Von Struckers. Yes, the Von Struckers. They're villains. They always have been villains. And so I've been mentioning in these reviews that I want the kids to become villains. And today we saw a glimpse into what could potentially happen with Lauren. Lauren is the I believe it's Lauren. I may have gotten that wrong, and I'll of course own up to it. But she finally revealed. I was going to say revealed herself as a villain, but she's not inherently a villain. But it's circumstances that drive her to be villainous, right? That would drive her to be villainous. It's the circumstances that drove her, her ancestors to become villains, right? So the extreme circumstances that the family finds themselves in, like, those are shaping the, villainous characters of both the kids. And we saw it already with Andy. And at the end of last episode, it seemed like, okay, well, is the show going to set up a sort of redemption for him? Are they going to take us down a route where he'll eventually join the underground again? He'll be, back to quote-unquote normal? That's sort of the way it looked like it was going, but the way it seems to be going is that not only is Andy going to remain a villain, but Lauren is also going to become a villain. And I'm loving her new power, this sort of interesting use of her powers, right? Her shielding powers, which are now being able to be formed into these like super sharp cutting tools that she can use as projectiles, which I was like, yes, please. Yes. When we saw it with, was it Andrea Strucker? The female ancestor using that power, I was like, well, what's up with Lauren? And then all of a sudden we see her using it in the room in her dream, which I love. I love moments like that, because those are the kind of moments where it's like, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, it's possible that one of those things would have potentially killed her parents. And the way the show's been going, I was ready for it to happen. Like the stakes that have been placed throughout the series would imply that sort of thing could happen. There was mention of Dreamer, and I forgot about Dreamer up until now, but they killed Dreamer off pretty shockingly and pretty spontaneously, right? It was just like, bam in the head, you're dead, after they've built her up throughout several episodes. And so the show's willing to go there. And so were they going to go there today? Fortunately, they didn't, but it was interesting to kind of have that moment. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning. We had the Von Strucker sort of flashback, and then we see that there's something about this box, this music box, that's going to be a secret that will be revealed at some point. I'm glad it happened this episode. I don't like it when things just kind of linger forever. It happened this episode. We saw that there's something in that box, and then we saw what it was. It was a note and a piece of both of their hairs intertwined together, maybe being symbolic or maybe being a catalyst for something that we have yet to become aware of. Interesting possibilities with that. then we kind of move on to a few great things. One great thing that we had was that Polaris wants to get back with Eclipse. It was that kiss. It was everything we saw last episode. It caused her to like want to be back, with him. But also, what was happening in the inner circle? Like, obviously, like I mentioned last week, like we had a kind of a detour from the aftermath of the prison break, but now we kind of get a little bit more of like that aftermath. And Riva has enlisted 3 murderers. I remember when the mid-season finale aired, I mentioned like, well, some of these people maybe shouldn't be broken out of prison. And here we get 3 examples. Apparently they took down a cruise ship and just killed everybody on board, which is horrific. Maybe there were anti-mutant hating people that would cross lines on that boat, but there were also innocent people. There were also children. Like, that's horrific. And for Riva to enlist them is a problem. And obviously not for Riva, because for her, they're foot soldiers. But, Polaris isn't Riva. Polaris isn't a villain. She hasn't been radicalized in the way that Riva was. Because we saw Riva, right? We saw her a few episodes back. There's an origin to her where she's not this cold-blooded killer that's willing to do anything to achieve her goals. She seemed to initially be just like a very sort of peaceful person that was radicalized because she saw her friend killed in front of her. And so, Polaris, even though she's had situations like that, maybe they haven't been as extreme to the point where it caused her to, kind of completely flip in her head to being that sort of cutthroat person. And maybe the fact that her father's Magneto and she wants to stay away from that kind of approach might have something to do with it. Interesting that the Cuckoos were there, but we didn't even hear them talk. It's weird. The show, I don't think the show does a good job of like balancing characters. Like where you have like Game of Thrones, you have a bunch of characters, and so they have a bunch of storylines, right? Like some are over here, some are over here, some over here. You don't just magically say, well, Cersei's in that other tower this episode, Or here's Tyrion, but he's just like playing with his drink over on the corner here while all this other stuff is going on. It's like, no, everybody's always involved. Like, if you have the Cuckoos there, like, why aren't they talking, Just highlighting a bit of the deficiency in the overall sort of execution of the show. I like the show a lot, but I'm not going to be critical of it where it needs to be because, there are some issues there and they need to be pointed out. Anyway, so the fact that Riva enlisted these people is what brought Lorna to the point of wanting to then rejoin the Mutant Underground, betray Riva, and ultimately get back with Eclipse, which I'm very happy about. And I love the idea that now everybody's going to work to try to take down Riva, even though at the same time we have this parallel threat escalating, and that is, of course, the Purifiers. Like the scenes that we had with Jace and that other guy going to that homeless shelter was pretty heartbreaking. And even though it wasn't executed that great, it was a tough moment, right? It was a tough moment to see, like, well, here's these guys, they sort of are operating with impunity, kind of letting their hate drive their motivations recklessly, to the point where one of them, at least Jace, allowed the other one to be alone with a kid that ultimately he killed in cold blood. I mean, we know that's what happened. He just killed him. Like, we didn't actually see it, but it's clear, and Jace knows it too. And that just shows, like, there's a problem with those sorts of people. There's a problem with that group, and that needs to be addressed. And that's a worse threat than Riva, because Riva has ultimately good intentions, but the way she's trying to go about achieving those intentions is horrible. Whatever she's planning is going to involve a lot of people dying. That's bad. But over here we have like reckless hate that's just killing without any sort of goal. Like, I mean, the goal is obviously to exterminate all mutants, but you're not going to be able to do that. And so really it is just to kill people. And so that's problematic. And even though it seems as though like the show is kind of revving up to take down Riva by the Mutant Underground and enlisting the Morlocks, that really it should be the Purifiers that should be taken down first. Now, we had an interesting moment at the end where it was revealed that Riva and that Hawk network, which is like the Fox network of this show, kind of, what's his name? One of their famous anchors, or talking heads, really, because he's more about kind of giving his opinion than providing any kind of like objective reporting, much like the Fox News network. And we see that her and him are interacting. Now, what does this mean? Like, obviously, it's not Riva that's going to like betray her cause, so it's got to be the guy betraying his cause. He's got to be a mole. If he's working with Riva, is he a mutant? Maybe he's a mutant. That's interesting. I look forward to seeing how that plays out. It's a nice sort of twist. I appreciate that twist. Beyond that, we got some nice character moments with Eclipse and Lorna. Finally, them hooking up, and we get the Aurora Borealis kind of beautiful sort of I'm trying to think of the art form. What is it? Expressionistic. Okay, so let's sort of this expressionistic kind of effect from their love, which I loved. That was great. And then it was interesting to kind of see the dynamic between the parents and Lauren when the cops were coming, and how like the mom was willing to make Lauren use her powers in order to help them. That was some nice kind of evolving sort of characteristics of the family dynamic itself, not just Lauren that's crossing over to the dark side, as it were, but the family's evolving, it's changing. I like that we see things like this, because it's like the family, like they're the human characters and they're cool, but like I'm interested in the mutant characters. But if at least you have them kind of always growing and becoming something better, different, ultimately leading to something, then I'm cool with that. Because, there are human allies to mutants. And for Lauren's mom to become something of influence, of even potentially leadership. I'm getting leadership vibes from her within this group is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. I would like to see that kind of play out. But there's also other stuff happening, like the Mutant Underground, that lawyer lady called Eclipse and said that she's going to... she called Thunderbird. And Thunderbird woke up, which is great. She called Thunderbird and let him know that there's going to be, like, I guess, a war of some sort. Like, she's gathering the troops of the Mutant Underground. So we're bound to see a lot more mutants. We're bound to see some mutants we may not even think would be on the show, potentially. Wink, wink, writers. Give me some identifiable mutants, please. So that's all happening and coming, so that's exciting. This was episode 11 of, I believe, 18, so we have about 6 left. No, wait, we have 7 left. Let me see. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, yeah. So we have a good amount of episodes left, and so we have a lot that's still going to happen. The fact that seeds are being laid for more to happen is exciting. My prediction for the end of the season is that Lauren and Andy will be Fenris. And they will be the villains of the following season. I know. It's a bit outlandish to predict something like that, but I kind of want it, so I'm just going to predict it. I want those characters to be the villains of next season. I want Fenris to be a badass force to be reckoned with. And I want that constant conflict of these kids trying to kind of let go of who they were to become the people they have to become. And that's an interesting arc for characters, and ultimately what will probably have to happen is they'll probably have to be taken out. But it'll be such a great experience for the show, for us, as we're watching the show, to kind of go through that dark adventure with these characters and kind of see where it takes us, because that would be very exciting. I'd be very excited about it. Lorna, I'm really loving Lorna, guys. Really loving Lorna. She's a special character. The way they're portraying her, it's a special representation. It's the kind of representation that if it were to really blossom, then the character itself could become as popular as Magneto. And ultimately, we could see some really interesting stuff with the Magneto-Polaris relationship in the films, which is what I would like, and hopefully we will see when the X-Men, a completely different rebooted X-Men that we've seen before, are introduced into the MCU. Because that, my friends, is heaven. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, click on that button, subscribe. Make sure you keep up with my latest videos if indeed you're interested. If you liked this video, click you liked it. If you didn't like it, click you didn't like it. It's fine. I understand. We don't always like everything. It's normal. If you think that people should be watching this, share this video on social media. Tell other people about it. Let them know that, hey, there's this guy with a bunch of X-Men stuff all over the place, and he's just talking about the Gifted every week. And it's kind of fun. Maybe. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you should definitely put an X in that box because ain't nobody checking me. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.